have returned. I've been on hiatus. My brother passed away, and I had been his legal guardian and caretaker. His death was very sudden, and after that I needed a good 2 months of hibernation. But I was pulled out of my hibernation because of rage! Because I hate misinformation. And the biggest purporter of misinformation in my field, in the field of nutrition, is RFK Jr. I hate that guy. I'm here today because of the Dietary Guidelines, because there's some dumb stuff in it, and I really gotta talk about it. So we're gonna start with this. I kept seeing flips the food pyramid upside down, and RFK Jr. is obsessed with the food pyramid. He's been talking about blah, 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 the food pyramid sucks, we blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something. The food pyramid has been so outdated that I went to grad school to become a dietitian in 2010, and it was already gone. We never learned about the food pyramid because it was out of practice. This is what I learned. Now, I disagree with fuck the dairy. The dairy is always going to be in our food dietary guidelines. We don't need it. It is not mandatory. But the reason dairy is always in the dietary guidelines, and it is in the current ones too, by the way, is because the dairy industry lobbyists are very, very tight-knit with dietary guidelines because they sponsored the first ones, and they're always going to have their hooks in it. We don't need dairy. Aside from that, my big point here is that this is what's been in practice since 2010, since I was in school, a little before. The government took this from practicing dietitians who used this plate model to convey what they needed to people who didn't speak English as a first language, because this is very simple. This is very simple. 50% of your plate is a fruit or vegetable. A quarter of your plate should be a carbohydrate, and not making the whole plate a carbohydrate is important, especially if you have high blood sugar. And then you get your protein, and protein, I always tell people, is subjective to the person. You have to calculate it based on the person's goals, their weight, their gender, and where they're at with their weight journey. But this is what's been in existence for over a decade, over 16 years. And RFK Jr.'s like, we're gonna fix the food pyramid. What fucking food pyramid? What food pyramid? We fixed it. Anyway, he flipped the food pyramid. So when I saw the headlines, I was like, what do you mean he's turned the food pyramid on its head? Well, he literally did. He literally did. And I don't hate this, but it's not a clear, this is a jumble. This is a kind of a mess. I can't point at this to my clients and go, half of your meals should be fruits and vegetables, because this is such a mess. And yes, things like avocado count as both a fiber food and a fat, but that doesn't, this is not making it clearer, which is what he said he was going to do, was make it clearer and simpler. That is not it. We had clearer and simpler. That plate, I show clients that plate all the time, and they go, oh my God, that's doable. I show clients this. What is this? What is, the point of the triangle is rice. Like, what is that? This is not it. He's so proud of himself too. He's like, I turned the food pyramid on its head. He's so proud that he changed a thing that it hasn't been in practice for over 15 years. Cool. Great job, guy, making this a fucking mess. And this is unfortunately not the only issue with what he did. Protein serving goals, 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram body weight per day. This is way too high. Way too high. So this is a terrible photo because I actually got it out of a book. This is not ChatGPT. This is not, I Googled it. This is my sports nutrition book. I do a little bit of what I call baby sports nutrition, like I counsel high school and college athletes, but I make my recommendations based on the research at hand. This is for athletes, by the way. This is not for Joe Schmo. So you can see your average endurance athlete here needs 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. And they use like a 154-pound person as an example. But that's, if you are running endurance, you need that much protein per day. Resistance, like weightlifting athletes, not someone going to the gym and just trying to build muscle. 1.6 to 1.7. This is why when I looked at that dietary guideline that said 1.2 to 1.6, I was like, you are out of your GD mind. Not to mention, you have to keep human beings in consideration for these guidelines. 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight is so much protein. This is why we have protein supplements, because if you are a smaller body and you have to consume that, you're not going to fit it in your stomach. You will either feel sick all the time or miserable because you're trying to eat all the time. And protein is very heavy in the stomach. To tell people 1.2 is your starting place isn't bad. I do start most of my clients, weight loss and athletes, on a 1.2 to 1.1 to 1.3 scale. But 1.1 to 1.7 is way too broad and way too high, and not what any average person should be having. And then I'd already told you the dairy was going to come back. This is not necessary. You get calcium from a lot of fruits and vegetables, nuts, eating a diverse diet. You do not need to consume dairy, but the dairy lobby is going to continue to weasel its way in. So don't go thinking for a second that Maha is getting the truth out there. They are still beholden to some of the biggest lobbies in our government. Believe it or not, this is the first time in the history of dietary guidelines that they have not given specific amounts of alcoholic beverages to drink. And it just came out last year. They finally admitted alcohol is carcinogenic on a level equal to smoking cigarettes. And RFK Jr. announced, yeah, it's better if we don't drink as much, but it's so social. And how can we socialize without bullshit? You can find a way to socialize without this. We don't need a carcinogen to have friends. And don't get me started. Okay, I love a good whole grain. It has a little bit of protein, not very much. It has a tiny bit of fiber, not that much, especially depending on the grain. But it tells you to avoid things like white bread. Guess what? White bread and whole wheat bread have the same amount of carbohydrates. White rice and brown rice have the same amount of carbohydrates. Flour tortillas, what did a flour tortilla ever do to you? This is just very thinly disguised carbohydrate phobia. And it doesn't mention the fact that we need 120 grams of carbohydrates just to function. Like if I sat here like a lump all day, I would need 120 grams of carbohydrates for my brain and my heart to keep functioning. A few of the guidelines were fine, but vague. I was impressed they put gut health with probiotic foods in here. I haven't seen that before, so I'll give them a compliment. Yay. You can get probiotics from things other than yogurt. Hey, we're getting away from dairy. Great move. But a lot of the guidelines were literally the same as they've ever been, and they were still too vague. 2 to 3 servings of vegetables a day. What is a serving? What is a serving? Your upside down pyramid is not telling you that. And it shouldn't be 1/3. It should be 1/2 of every meal. Just so you know. So you don't have to figure out what the hell a serving is. The number one reason why we have obesity in this country, it is coming down because of GLP-1s, by the way. But the number one reason is just people don't follow these guidelines. So making them more vague and confusing and complicated is not going to move us. It's not going to move the ticker forward. We're just going to be the same way we are. We want to eat what we want to eat. We're not going to follow these guidelines because they're weird and vague and they make us feel like to eat healthy is miserable. So thanks for making this convoluted and unhelpful, and also taking everything we've been saying and then saying that you invented it. That feels great.